That to spare.
I've got 6 o'clock. Okay. Everybody's here. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order for March 20th, 2025. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All commission members have received a copy of tonight's agenda, and it includes our consent agenda consisting of minutes from the February 20th, 2025 meeting. And we have 2 public hearings. We do have a request from city staff to move that first public hearing under 3.1 to the next planning commission meeting agenda. That is April 17th, 2025. So I'd entertain a motion to amend the agenda accordingly. Does anyone else have anything that they think?
Very.
All right. Is there an amendment to the, would anybody like to offer that amendment to amend the agenda for tonight?
I move that we make that amendment to the agenda for tonight's meeting.
And then approve the rest accordingly?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up on our items for consideration are the consent agenda. Those items on the planning commission consent agenda that are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a planning commission member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, all items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, second, and vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda goes to the bottom of the agenda with general business. Right now, tonight, we have one item, and that is the aforementioned meeting minutes from the February 20th meeting. Can I get a motion in favor of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to whatever you just said.
I have got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Our next order of business on tonight's agenda is the public hearing. We have for a preliminary plat application for the Holman Second Edition. Planning Commission members have received the following documents, including the staff report from the Credit River Planning dated on March 1. Staff report from Shane Nelson, Higginson Anderson, dated March 8th, 2025. Comment memo from Mary Von Eschen, Scott County Environmental Services, dated March 4th, 2025. The preliminary plat, the preliminary plan set, and the wetland exhibit. For members of the public, the following protocols that I'm about to read are anticipated steps to be followed by the Planning Commission. That allows us to effectively consider, discuss, and possibly act on matters brought before us for consideration and action under required public hearings. So generally, staff will present a project summary and staff report and findings to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission members may then have questions for staff on the project and the report. The applicant will then have the opportunity to address the commission about the project. The commission may have questions for the applicant. Then the Planning Commission chair will open the public hearing for public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 to 5 minutes, and note this venue serves as the primary opportunity for the public to address a scheduled application, proposal, or issue. Therefore, it's really important to offer your relevant comments and input to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will then close the hearing, and thereafter members may hold a discussion and consider possible action. Finally, the planning commission does not hold the authority to approve or deny any given application, as it is a recommending entity only. So that the planning commission then forwards its findings to the city council for a decision. So just a little bit of context about the role. So before I open the public hearing, I'd like city staff to summarize the application before us and offer any relevant background.
Perfect. Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission members. Yes, tonight you have the preliminary plat application for Holman Second Edition, ready for public hearing. This is a 6-home subdivision. There would be rural residential lots, all that meet that minimum 2.5 acre requirement that we have in that zoning district. And they will all be accessing from existing roads. There's no public infrastructure improvements as part of this at this time. I do want to just make a quick note that on page 12 of your packets and page 3 of my planning staff report, there was a slight mishap under the utilities section. The community septic system that was incorrectly put in this report. So just that first part about stormwater ponding, which is submitted and represented on the plans as shown in your packet. That's the only applicable part of that section of my report. So again, apologies for that typo, but just wanted to let you know and put that on the record. Otherwise, like I mentioned, there are another things with the infrastructure I do want to just point out is that there are shared driveways proposed on the 4 southern lots. And I did throw in my report the tidbits within the city's subdivision and zoning ordinance as to what those rules are for shared driveways. It does appear that they do meet those requirements, but I know we don't see those super often when preliminary plats come through. So I wanted to throw that in there for your background. And one other tidbit, I'm not sure if these are in your packets that are they in the printed packets? Okay, so we did receive a later minute letter from Scott County Highway and Transportation Division on Monday. So when Matt sent out your original packet on Friday, we did not have that yet. But we did
Page 33.
had page 33 of your printed out packets that were on your spots for this evening. That does outline some of their review comments and some comments from the first edition when this came through in 2023, I think. So that's the general background I have for you. Like I said, Matt, for those in the audience this evening, does have the plat up on the TVs for those. This is the general plan set. Do you want to scroll to the one that shows the house, the locations of the houses? Just for those, but that's what I have, and happy to answer any questions, but you know, that'll probably come after that. There we go. That's a good one. How about?
All right. Thank you very much for that report and for pointing out the memo that's been added. I'd like to open it up for the applicant to make any statement or address the planning commission.
Planning Commission, my name is Nico.
Oh, can I get you to turn on the microphone by hitting the square button and then?
Yeah.
And if you can state your name and the address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Gary Tupy for the applicant for the development. 210th Street, I guess, right? They're not addressed yet, so. The plat you have before you, we've worked with Cheryl Holman, who's owned the property now for, I don't know, Cheryl, how many decades? 50 years?
Yeah, it's about that.
Anyway, we were talking with her on and off for 30 some years on trying to get this to go. And Cheryl, finally the time came to put the property into a development phase. And we looked at every possible option for, as could ever be from a township to a city. We looked at, is this something that maybe should stay for institutional? Is this a future school site? Is this a future, without water and sewer coming out this far? And then the grades and things that the site offered, it really doesn't lend itself to good farm ground. It really doesn't lend itself to a park. It really doesn't lend itself to much other than some custom home building sites. And so we went down the path of trying to get the best possible use we can without, the least amount of impact. So there's really zero wetland impact. There's zero tree impact. We're not producing any roads. We're using existing infrastructure. All the lots meet all the existing criteria. We've got one clarification with Mary on one of the septic sites. If you guys have any questions, I've got the clarification with me tonight. I think the real only point of contention that I'm not really sure which way to go, and maybe Chris, the mayor, can help us with this, is the county asking for a turn lane on Longview. So we've been developing out here now for almost 40 years, and I think we've got to be probably one of the biggest or most experienced developers, I would think, in the history of Credit River. And we've seen this come and go over the years. For the longest time, it was, no turn lanes in the county. It was made back in the late 80s, early 90s. Turn lanes came in to be a thing. And then turn lanes, there was we don't need them everywhere, so we're going to collect fees. And for the longest time, we just paid a fee per lot, and that went into a fund somewhere. I'm not sure where all that money exactly went. And then somehow the state said that's not legal, so we couldn't do that anymore. And then we were told, well, you can ask for infrastructure if it has a direct benefit to the property, but if it's, a greater benefit for the greater community or the county as a whole or something like that, then it's a shared expense between city, county, and developer. And so with that being said, I have never seen a turn lane yet that I know of on a county road that's been required for only 2 additional lots. I think the threshold, Chris, you can jump in, used to be 4, if I remember right.
The question I had for me, last night was how many lots on a road is a criteria? She couldn't answer that.
Yeah, so I've never seen it required for 2, because if we did a transportation study and went through that whole drill and spent the money, the transportation study is obviously going to come back with only a few turning movements, which is way less than we have on all kinds of other intersections in the county that don't have turn lanes, and the county obviously doesn't pull out of their budget to fix all of those safety problems either. I know we had a plat that we were at another development review meeting for down in Cedar Lake Township, which is also on a county road with 6 lots. And the county said, well, no, you don't need to do a turn lane there because it's gravel. And I'm thinking, well, why does it matter if it's gravel or blacktop? It should be traffic, turning movements, and safety, not gravel or not gravel. But so anyway, long story short, I think that's really the only point of contention is what we do with the turn lane. And then if the county mandates it, how does it get paid for? Do we still have funds in the account that we put into for years and years and years? Does the city have a Collector Street fund that you guys are working off of for, city improvements? I guess I just don't know where to go with that. So other than that, I think the plat meets all of the criteria that we could come up with to check the boxes. So,
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
I'm open for more questions, or if there's anybody in the audience that has more questions, how we got to where we got.
Sounds good. All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. This is the time for residents to provide comments pertaining to this application. And before we have people come up to the microphone, staff, are there any written comments that you would like to summarize?
We did receive one written comment. Initially they made a phone call, and then we asked them to please send an email so that we could include this in your packet.
Yeah.
Generally, the main concern from this property owner who lives directly across from the proposed preliminary plat was just wondering, making sure that nobody was directly accessing the lot onto the county road, that they'd be accessing from Longview Lane and 210th Street, which, as you've seen in the plans, there's no driveways proposed onto the county road. And then was just a little bit we just wanted to make sure that they'd be, set back along that western property line, and it appears that they are on the plat. So those were those main questions, and that's on page 34 of your packet.
Sounds good. Are there any residents who wish to make a comment or ask questions about this proposed application? Anyone here who'd like to make a public comment on this application this evening? Yes, please approach the microphone. And if you wouldn't mind, please state your name and address.
Sure, Christine Gaylor, 210th Street. I'm just wondering how the shared driveway aspect would work.
So the shared driveways.
Would you mind coming up to the mic, just so we can hear?
The shared driveways actually were kind of with the comment that we got on the first edition from the county, where they wanted the driveways pulled out of the intersection as far as we could for stacking site safety. So that's how the first lot got one. And then when we started doing all the stormwater ponding and connection and piping, it just was so much cleaner for even long-term city maintenance of these waterways and ponds if we just put one more culvert and not split that into 2 small basins. And so we've done these many times over the years on different plats. When you run into a situation like this, I think very good example is when you go into Terra Farms. If you look at the very first lot in the plat on the right, it was exactly the same situation where there was a waterway through there. We didn't want to make environmental impacts. We popped in some culverts there and we did a shared driveway over the culverts. Similar. That's how we got there.
Sounds good.
One more question.
Certainly.
The pond, who's in control of the pond or like, because there's no water there right now.
No, and they're, you know, most of these ponds.
Come on back.
All the plats that we've done all these years, we've done everything from, you know, storm ponds, rain gardens, and all kinds of things to try to control stormwater. 90% of the time, these ponds are dry. Typically, people are mowing through them, or farmers are still, you know, farming some of the parcels where people don't use all their acreage. Farmers are still, you know, tilling them up and doing things. It's only in those rare, you know, 100-year or 500-year rain events that you'll see water come up and we'll see some flow and then it dries up. These are not wet basin wetlands. They're just to control water on our property. So we're not pushing our water onto the neighbor's property is what it does. So you're right, Chrissy, they're not going to hold a lot of water. Those will probably be mowed. We're,
By the owner?
yeah, all the ponds, I believe, in the city, right, are on private property are maintained by the owners. You guys don't go out and do pond maintenance. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that the city has easements to go if they need to do something to make sure the water works, but everything's on everybody's individual lots
Yeah,
is part of their maintenance.
as I say, certain ones will, yeah, in development agreements sometimes have the city responsibility, but I don't think this one would, but that's a better city engineer question.
Is there anyone else wishing to ask questions or make public comment? This is your chance to offer input or get your questions answered.
Carol Holman, this is my property, and I'm wondering about that turnaround. Gary had mentioned that when I sold it, that they were thinking of maybe putting that in there, that roundabout. And that would make more for me to pay for that is what I'm looking at. I don't know if was discussed or anything and why we would need a roundabout there.
Cheryl, are you saying roundabout or turn?
Huh?
Are you taking the turn lane in?
Yes.
Yeah, the turn lane?
Yes.
Yeah, and we just don't know that yet.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
No.
And
We're just, that's gonna.
so you have a meeting and let me know, or?
I'd look to city staff to advise us on
Yes,
that.
so, you know, after tonight's recommendation from the planning commission, the city staff will meet and prep everything for the city council's approval, for the final approval, and within that time, we're hoping we might be able to have some more discussions with the county on what that looks like, because we don't have those answers at this.
Do they have it any other place where there's a development? Was there any other place done like that?
Yes, but usually for a higher volume of
Okay, that's what I
homes
thought.
being
More
added.
homes.
Yeah, but that isn't necessarily uncommon for them to request that, but we just received this letter on Monday as well, so
Oh,
we
you did?
haven't.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe one thing just to put so Cheryl at ease,
absolutely.
there will be nothing that costs you any money. Unless you choose to continue selling lots on your. They're gonna get in your checkbook, but as long as you stay put, no one's coming after you.
Well, thank you.
All right. I realize that, you know, with just getting that letter late, that there's probably still some questions, so. Does anybody else wish to make comments or ask questions? Any other comments or questions? If not, can I get a motion from the planning commission members to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Given that we have no other residents here, asking questions and we've closed public comment, this is now the time for us as planning commission members to ask any of the questions or voice any, of the comments that we may have about this particular application. Is there anybody who would like to ask questions?
I got a quick, easy one. Claire, so on page 12, the homeowners association, is that a typo too, or a mistake, or is there actually?
No, at this time, they did not propose into it.
Okay.
As
'cause
part of this
it's in, it says in here that there is.
Oh, I think I meant to say there is not one proposed. I
Or
apologize.
wait, no,
It's
no,
not-
sorry,
not-
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I read it wrong.
Which the city doesn't require one. I mean,
Right,
it's
yeah,
preferred
no,
for
I-
larger
I didn't think
developments, but
it-
something
yeah.
like this, yeah.
I read it wrong, I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good.
Perfect.
All right, are there any other questions?
Just a very quick one, and I think this is about the shared driveway concept. Maybe this is an educational part for me. As far as going back, now some of these houses are, quite a distance from the street. Is these shared driveways available, or can they accommodate emergency vehicles if that becomes necessary, like a fire engine, if like one of these houses catches fire? That
Absolutely. So with the shared driveway, we have to perform on the plat to show you and the county that we can provide a house of such a size, a primary and alternate septic at such a size. And then where we draw those boxes as a demonstration, we pencil in a driveway.
Yeah.
But as you guys all know, when the individual homeowners come in with their custom plan and their shed and their pool and all the things, these things get rifled all over the place when they come in for permit submittals. So I would say at that time, what they would do is the easements for the shared driveways will be modified to the minimum length the owners need to share. Typically, the owners on these high-end houses break those off 50 feet off the main road is what they do. So you'll have a little wider driveway for in and out, and then they just go to their regular house. It's actually, especially when you get to the bottom of what 210th is, I guess, I don't know if you call it a collector street or it's a busier interior street for sure. And the fewer approaches, I think typically is preferred. That's what we've always been steered to by both county and city and township in the past, especially when we get close to an intersection for stacking. So, yeah, and we've never experienced any problems with that at all.
I think the shared idea works with this project.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, maybe just two things. I guess, I'm always interested when it's a second edition, how has it gone with the first edition? City. Not you, Gary, but no. I was joking. I actually would like to hear how's it gone. I mean, and what have you changed? And is it,
So the first edition essentially was just Cheryl keeping her home and selling her acreage off for development.
Got it.
Much like we're doing with the Munchau property, they're keeping the homestead, selling the back land off for development. So when we plat that initial house off, that becomes the first edition. When we come for lots, then of course that becomes the second action between the city, and that's how it gets filed as a second edition.
as long as you're up, is this lot development easy compared to the other ones you've done? I mean, it looks pretty straightforward.
Well, this has got zero
No big
impacts
way.
for anything, and there's no road construction. So yeah, we typically would see this on a preliminary and a final in one action in the past. Anything that would be like 12 lots or under without road construction. But I think now there's so many things changing with everybody from township to city. And I think everybody's trying to get their feet under them on how this thing's working. So we're fine slowing it down to back that down for a preliminary. If we catch anything, we'll be back the following month for a final, and then we'll get it filed. Yeah, it's totally fine.
And then it's the one other item, I'm not sure who would answer it, but there's that little dog leg or I guess.
Handle.
What do you call it?
Handle.
Panhandle, all right. What is the story there? Is that?
It's just a piece of property that Cheryl always owned and never had sold. And when we acquired the property from Cheryl, it's owned and not given. And I know we've reached out to the neighboring property owner 3 separate times before we brought the plat forward now. At one time, we had talked about maybe conjoining the properties, and there was talk about maybe taking Longview and bringing it out to 210th and then giving the access, but we couldn't come to any, rational. And then what we did is we did some additional soil borings at this road, proposed to come through like this, and we run lots this way and this way. The soils down to this bottom were essentially kind of bottomless. So it would have become an extremely not viable road location. And if we had pushed that road, east, it would have took out all of their lots, and they would have only been, it would have not been financially a good move for this property owner.
So the owner of that property, is it this little home on the bottom?
No, no owner, it's just it's a raw 10-acre parcel.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay. Will it go with lot 2 or is it just gonna be,
It'll remain with this lot as part of the lot.
okay, I think that's 2.
And you can't, there's no crystal ball, right? We just don't know what's gonna happen, and will Terra Farms ever put through the big ravine there? I mean, there's not really much development driving that, ever paid that, I don't think, so it probably won't be in my tenure, but we just don't know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
I guess I just got a technical, so does the hill and the topography, is that a challenge or how, yeah, how do you, are you planning on taking it down some? Or-
Yeah, we'll be robbing some of the soil off the top of the hill to do a down push to make the driveways, because right now there's some 18% grades. We want to get those closer to 10 or 12s.
Okay,
And then we're gonna end up with quite a bit of extra soil on the pond excavation piece, and we'll end up kind of like we did on the Dave Eftes piece across the street. We actually stockpiled a lot of that for septic construction. So we'll probably identify some kind of a stockpile area, and we'll stockpile the good soil and then separate the rest. Yep.
anyone else with questions? You know, I think getting some clarity on what level, what's the threshold for traffic with regard to the turn lane would be good. I know that Texas Avenue in particular is pretty busy and it's getting busier. So on one hand, I can, and it's narrow. On one hand, I can see it, but I also understand the question about whether it's warranted or what that threshold is. So that was one thing I noted. You know, for our own learning purposes, before the meeting, I asked a couple of questions to which city staff had been able to provide some answers. You know, looking at the size of the lots and then just clarifying for our own purposes that the ordinance, even if it's a two acre or 2.5 acre minimum lot, that it's 1 acre of buildable non-hydric soils. So because a couple of them were below that threshold. So I just, you know, I clarified a couple of those things ahead of time. And then I guess the only other question that I have is the shared driveways just become the maintenance of the two property owners who share them, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that is exactly correct. It's just a shared easement and driveway maintenance agreement between the two owners.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check. So, anybody, any other questions?
I guess I'm just, yeah, I was thinking about this little panhandle or whatever you want to call it. Gary, would it ever make sense for the city to just take that tiny little sliver, and if the road ever does get paved, we'd have the right of way, and then yeah, it'd be a way to kind of clean it up a little bit instead of, I don't know, down the road having it be an issue, I guess.
Yeah. So I think the right time to work out the panhandle is at the same time we figure out exactly what's going to happen within the turn lanes. What obviously most likely, you know, the landowner to this side who doesn't have access would love to just have access. He can split through fives, make no contributions anywhere and just develop his land. So for us right now, if more lots come on Longview Lane in any fashion, and we've talked to Cheryl about selling, she has room for a couple more lots on the north side. And the Schmidt property could potentially get a couple lots in there as well, assuming they get access through here. And that might be a way that we help fund some upgrades. I know the residents, both Marty and Cheryl, both live on Longview right now, and nobody was really too excited about paying for the upgrade. That, I mean, the road's in serious need of repair now after, I don't know, how long has it been, Marty, 20 years? How long has it been? I don't even remember. It's been quite a while.
50 years.
Well, but blacktopping, how long since we blacktopped?
50 years.
2001, so it's over 20 years. Yeah, anyway, long story short, I mean, that would be some funding mechanism as we move forward. So I think we are definitely open to working out with whatever makes sense when all those things come on the table. I mean, because obviously it does know us, no, right? So we're totally fine with getting that worked out.
Yeah. Planning Commission members, any other questions, any other comments? Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the session.
Okay, we've already,
Or, okay,
we're looking. at
I'll make
this
a
point-
motion to approve the Yeah.
recommend approval
Recommend,
for the, okay,
There you go.
subject to this recommendations outlined in the staff report.
Perfect.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. That is our last public hearing on the agenda for this evening, and as we have no items under general business, can I get a motion to adjourn tonight's planning commission meeting?
Move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming this evening, and we are now adjourned.